Well, South Africa is facing a possible chicken and egg shortage as a severe strain of avian flu grips the poultry industry. There are currently two subtypes of avian flu outbreaks, namely H5N1 and H7N6. H5N1 is mainly affecting poultry in the Western Cape and KwaZulu Natal, mostly in wild birds, and has not entered poultry units. But there is more concern over the spread of H7N6, which was initially picked up at a small-scale farm in Mpumalanga, then spread to Gauteng, Free State, Limpopo and the North West provinces. So this is certainly a big one. Let's talk now to Tshepo Mongoai, who is our economics editor. Tshepo, good evening to you and welcome. And anyone who loves both their chicken and their eggs, which is everyone in my family, we've noticed the absence of eggs from some shelves. We've been reading with great concern the spread and proliferation of this type of flu. Just share with us the architecture of the business impact.
Well, it is affecting mainly eggs. The broilers, that's where we've seen a minimal impact. So according to experts, it's unlikely that there will be serious shortage of poultry. But we're already seeing the impact when it comes to the eggs industry. And it's likely to continue for quite some times because remember, one of the issues with eggs is that the reason why the infection is high is because the layers are kept much longer in the houses and being susceptible to the infections, unlike with the breeders, the broilers, who are kept for a very short period of time and then they are sold to the farmers who often have to raise them up until a point where they can actually sell them as chicken for meat. But just a bit of context is that the two strain, I mean, if you go back about 5 years ago, we have seen this strains flaring up in various countries in the past 5 years. And you know, resulting in a number of chicken being culled. And what is becoming a concern is that there are cases where we've seen this, especially the H5N1, that it can actually infect mammals. And there were cases that they were found that even human beings were infected, and luckily it's rare, but it does happen. The studies are still ongoing in terms of this because they also found that the fatality can be like up to 50%. So it results often in people dying, and they're saying that about 67 countries last year alone were found to have been affected by these two strains of avian influenza. So the question is, what is it that can be done? The World Health Organization has also raised concerns about this, that they are quite concerned about this. And locally, we know that in terms of our biosecurity, yes, suppose with the commercial farmers, they've got very strong biosecurity measures in place. But when it comes to, we've got a lot of emerging farmers who are trying to one day become serious players. That's where things are a bit not as where they should be.
Well, take us into that story a little bit, Tshepo. We know that the concept of emerging farmers, their contribution to the economy and the desire really to see them become sustainable business is high, and yet they're almost one crisis away from non-existence.
That's so, yeah.
So is this a big threat to them insofar as their actual existence?
They're going to be wiped out. I mean, there are projects. There was a project in somewhere in Pretoria. There was one in North West that government sponsored in cooperatives. They've all collapsed. Some were doing, many of them were doing eggs, some were doing poultry. And you could see, that's before the crisis, because of the challenges that this industry is facing, but also because of the dynamics of the industry that many emerging farmers find themselves, despite government giving them a lot of resources, a lot of money, but they just can't survive, many have argued is because of the value chain, that you need to have your legs in a number of value chain in order to run a smooth operation. If it's a poultry industry, we talk about feed. Feed is expensive, and then to get a feed, you need to grow it. Yellow maize, the price of yellow maize a couple of years ago, it was like up to 5,000 a ton. It has come down, but are you able to absorb that? The storage facilities in order to make sure that you've got enough feed to last you, or yellow maize to last you throughout the year, that even when you've got those seasonality in terms of price pressures, you have those huge silos where you can keep that. Those are the dynamics.
I mean, you're right. There's an entire value chain and a supply chain around this particular story, which also is at risk and in some ways is going to be affected. Is there support, particularly for the emerging farmers?
Well, I always question that. You can give a farmer, an emerging farmer, seed and all the equipment, but if you don't sit down with that farmer, look at this, the spreadsheet and see how much does it cost you, how much is your profit, how much can you make, how much is your feed, and how much profit are you likely to make? Can you survive with maybe about 400 layers? How much is your profit from that? It's very small, and you're unlikely to survive 3 seasons because the margins are so small. Come winter, when the prices go up, that farmer is going to close shop.
This sounds like we're going to have a bigger problem months down the line. I mean, we're talking about shortages right now, and of course that affects prices going up, but in a word, this is likely to persist, the impact.
The impact will persist, but hopefully we hope that, wisdom that being, they will be able to contain it. They are talking about vaccination that perhaps could help. The problem with this, influenza, they evolve, they change, and sometimes it's very difficult to find the right vaccination, and sometimes it doesn't, because it keeps on changing, and that's why it's so difficult at times, because it's been around for quite some time and it's not responding to vaccination because it's evolving.
Very, very concerning, and this is part of the problem with a lot of strains that become mutant. Tshepo, we're going to continue to watch this through your eyes. Appreciate your analysis tonight. Our economics editor, Tshepo Mongoai.